This is Reality with Personality. I'm together with our guest today in studio, Dr. Yvonne McFadzean. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. And yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's nice to have you in studio, and I know you've had a whirlwind kind of travel and tour so far. So let me start by giving our usual teaser, and then we will have you make your presentation. What
Okay.
I'd like to say is, if my co-host would hear, I would address him and say, human beings are individuals, indivisible, born one of a kind, able to make choices because they already know how they think, feel, and experience life. All of that happens from within the person through their consciousness and awareness. So they ought not to be raised the way you'd raise cattle. Children ought to be nurtured and inspired in a conducive environment where they begin to blossom into becoming their best selves. So it is misguided telling a child to become, okay, be like your brother, be like your sister. For a dozen children, even, can be born to the same parents, in the same environment, eating the same food, and yet they all behave differently. Why? These differences occur based on how each one of the 12 downloads information. Why children are different from each other? Human beings come wired with these 5 centers of receptivity into which they download information. In their brain, you have the center of sleep, center of memory, center of imagination, center of right perception, and the center of perversion. And so they need to clearly know the way they perceive things and the way they do, and thereby in, be able to see with clarity and multitask. To do that, they have to establish and clearly distinguish these 5: sleep, memory, imagination, center of right perception, and center of perversion. If these 5 centers in the individual are distinctly established, what can happen when a person is, when he, she is supposed to be fully awake, that person is still a little asleep. Whenever he, she wants to imagine, his or her memory plays havoc. Whenever he, she wants to remember, his or her imagination destroys the memory. So, in starting and establishing these 5 centers is how the individual become master of his or her destiny. Now, people say God decides. If God is responsible, and it's true, God plays a role. But if God is responsible, can you do anything about it? No. Similarly, people say faith. But if it is faith, can you do anything about it? No, you can't. Say luck. Some say it's luck. If it's luck that is responsible, can you do anything about it? Of course you can. The only thing that you control is the amount of effort or lack thereof that you put in. Effort is the variable that you control to determine your destiny. So you must live then with full intensity. Intense, not tense. While you are relaxed on the outside. Relaxed, not laxed. Human beings need to just be you, because that's what distinguishes us as creatures. We are the only beings born already knowing how to be. Not become. We shouldn't become, we should just be. Be real. We don't have to be optimistic or pessimistic. Be realistic, for God is real. Life is real. We neither need a personality nor character. Just be. Be competent by working on our craft every day, becoming better and better at it, and be joyful while doing it. and we will know what to do in a given situation. God, who is our spirit, so are we. We have these two natures: physical, which has limitations, has boundaries. You can't grow in that physical realm. For the mind is only, even if you crush all the libraries and pound them into your head, there will always remain something more for you to learn. The heart is only full until you meet something or someone more appealing. So you can't exhaustively become fulfilled through the body and mind. Only the spirit realm, there is where the spirit realm is boundless and you can grow and expand without limit. So God is neither a personality nor does God have a character. God is simply a presence. All we need is to be a presence, a powerful presence. If the room is white, we can become that. So finally, what people become is too full of themselves when they just don't be. Today in studio, then, you, Dr. Yvonne McFadzean, my friend,
Put
you
my
know you're a
lambe in
perfect
there, Percy. Put my lambe in there, Percy.
Dr. Yvonne. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Maiden name Lambert.
Yes.
You are a perfect blend of both your parents, resilient, charming type, and most competent leader. And you've produced children with these similar traits. Tell us about your journey, Doc. Your present, your past, present and future in becoming the very best version of yourself. Please.
Sure. Percy, you said a lot in that introduction that even before I talk about myself, I think we need to revisit. Um, and I'm glad that there's such a program that will challenge our thinking along our spirituality and how we evolve to become who we are at this time, because life is a journey. And the first thing I want to say is parenting is critical. And I want parents to understand that they do have a very important role in forming and guiding their children. And
Yes.
I don't think we should take our parenting responsibility very lightly, because now that I notice that some parents are allowing the children to be the parents, and parents are told what to do. In our home, we knew exactly what our roles are, and we knew the role of our mother and a father. So it begins with a mom and dad who, number one, were true co-parents, because you could never come to my dad to try to get him to say yes to something that you want without him asking, "Katengo be bogoshu?" And then
Yes, yes.
you could never go to my mom, because kids will play those games, because sometimes based on
Right.
what we want to do, we know the one who's going to say yes. So we
Yes.
already had our plan. No, no, we're not ask daddy this one. We could go ask mom. And then mom would say, Kalengo be
Mhm.
Bogoshi, Alabal Bogoshi. So they were
Aha.
always a united front. That's
Yes,
the
yes.
critical thing. And kids need to know that, because kids will play on that.
Right.
Then you also said you spoke about faith. You spoke
Yes.
about God. You spoke about spirituality. All those
Yes.
things are important. As children, we go to church because that's what's expected. I
Hmm.
went to Holy Ghost. I went to a Catholic school. That was part
Okay.
of going to school, right? Because I had
Hmm.
certain days that it was your class day to go to church.
Yes.
And just
Yes.
being a Catholic school, we did all the
Hmm.
Catholic rituals that go with going to Catholic school. So at that age, it's more performative. It's
Yes.
more because it's expected of me. That's what I'll
Hmm.
do. not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily because you truly understand the role and purpose of God in your life, nor
Yes,
have you
yes.
at an early age developed that personal relationship with God. But at some
Mm-hmm.
point, you have to if you're going to continue this journey.
Yes.
But then all those foundation though that our parents try to instill in us, hey, but let me see, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, all that become who you are as an adult in later life. Because
Yes.
I always said, even as we work with this Pablo Lambey Foundation, I remind my
Mm-hmm.
siblings and my daughter share, don't forget that dad was a man of faith. And at some point, we have to reflect that in the work that we do.
Right.
Prayer,
Right.
prayer life was part of Pablo Lambey's home. He read the
Mm-hmm.
Bible with us. As a matter of fact, presently, my sisters and I are part of a prayer group. And in honor of Father's Day the other day, we read one of his favorite Bible
Oh.
scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 13,
Ah.
that
Okay.
describe what love is.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And
Yes.
we grew up with that Bible verse, chapter and verse, from we were just reciting because that's what Dad expected, to
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
now it's application for us. How do we
Yes.
truly show love when we show up?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
it says, love is kind, love is
Mm-hmm.
patient, love is all of
Mm-hmm.
those things. So all of those
Mm-hmm.
things become part of who you become as you enter into your own self. You mentioned spirituality to Percy as
Yes. Yes.
Garifuna, and you notice I put on my Garifuna outfit because I'm a proud Garifuna woman,
Yes. Yes.
Garifuna Nuguya,
Yes.
and I carry that wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
We know
Mm-hmm.
that we believe in the spirit of our ancestors, and I
Right.
strongly believe in that. My dad did. Not that, and I want people to understand that when you say you believe in your ancestors, they don't become our God. God is still God.
Yes. Yes.
God is still God, because even when our ancestors would come, Henga Henga Bebu, Bungita
Mm-hmm.
Furumia, Wagia Larry, it's God
Yes.
first, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're after him. And I say,
Right.
if I believe as a Catholic, I believe in angels because that's part of Catholicism.
Yes. Yes.
Who
Yes.
more
Yes.
can become our angels when they cross? Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we are more spirit man than physical.
Yes. Yes.
Physical is
Yes.
limited, but when we tap
Mm-hmm.
into our spirituality to understand,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, I went on my own personal journeys. Percy, is going back
Mm-hmm.
to our soul. What is
Okay.
soul, and how did we decide to come on this planet? And what is our
Mm-hmm.
purpose here? So those are some
Mm-hmm.
questions that I ponder on, that I seek answers for,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
outside of religion, outside
Mm-hmm.
of education,
Yes.
because
Yes. Yes.
even
Yes.
education is limited. You know, my father always, I have a PhD person, but who cares? My
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
father always talk about that's book learning. And anybody could go to open a book and learn.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that
Yes.
does
Yes.
not make you any wiser or any
Mm-hmm.
more prepared for life if you don't
Yes. Yes.
understand your true spirituality. And how do you connect? Do you connect with your God? You connect with your ancestors? You connect with those spiritual beings that have an effect on our life, but we're not even aware, because that requires sometimes silence to connect. And I do my to we talk more than we listen. And so sometimes we have to remain quiet, because when we
Uh-huh.
pray, that's us talking to God. When God
Mm-hmm.
wants to respond to us, he does
Mm-hmm.
that in a quiet voice. But sometimes we're too busy to hear him. So Percy,
Uh-huh.
your show,
Uh-huh.
I,
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you're doing it, but this is heavy if we really
Okay.
understand what you're trying to do here, and to wake us up, to that third eye, to that spiritual eye, to
Mm-hmm.
that place where we really can become powerful
Yes,
and
yes,
mountain movers. The Bible said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can
mm-hmm,
tell this mountain to move. But we say
mm-hmm.
those words, but my faith, we don't believe it.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes, yes.
we limit our power in
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
not only changing our own lives, but changing those lives around us. Okay,
Yes,
I
indeed.
think I've talked a lot, Percy, because you threw a lot at me. And yes, the physical has boundaries. It's
Mm-hmm,
limited. This body
mm-hmm,
can only, and as we get older, we get weaker, but that doesn't mean we have to get weaker in spirit.
mm-hmm. Well, you see, I have to tease certain things out of you.
Mm.
I want you to tell me now about your growing up years among your siblings, whether you're the oldest and how was that? And your role among your siblings growing up.
I love that question, Percy, because I have pride in talking about our life as children and all of us sisters and brothers. We only have two brothers. It's mostly girls. It's a
Okay.
heavy girl lady family. There
Mm-hmm,
are nine
mm-hmm.
of us. My oldest sister, Pat, is my dad's daughter, but she's my mom. My mom loved her just as much. And with
Yes, yes, yes.
my mother has eight. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
four for three for my mom, four for my dad.
Yes.
Um, but what I love about our childhood days,
Mm-hmm,
Percy,
mm-hmm,
is truly feeling safe, truly
mm-hmm,
feeling loved, truly feeling understood. And that's each of us because my father had a unique way. Maybe when I did that, Magushi Mehala, my father
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
died when my father was a young boy. He was one of the massacred in Honduras. He did
Ah,
not know
yeah.
his dad. He
Right,
met his
yeah.
dad in a dream. But I think
Ah,
that man was determined to be the best father he could. And
yes.
it's just through other mentorship of men. He used to go to Gadi Alfonso and Colofi, to seek
Uh-huh.
guidance. Those were his people that he seek guidance from. And like I said, he truly was a spiritual man. He read his Bible.
Yes.
Methodist, let me tell you the
Okay.
uniqueness of our family. My dad is Methodist, my mom is Catholic. So some
Uh-huh.
of us went to Catholic school, some of us went to Methodist school. So we learned from childhood days that we don't have to
Uh-huh.
fight over religion.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes,
we
yes,
don't have
yes,
to
yes.
fight over religion because what religion does is that we limit this God that we not fully understand. Because religion is
Mm-hmm.
trying to make us understand God again through the eyes of man, and that's
Yes,
limited.
yes.
So we grew up.
Uh-huh.
My father was a provider. My
Okay.
mom was a stay-home mom, but a true
Uh-huh.
entrepreneur. My mother didn't
Uh-huh.
sit around doing nothing. That lady, she was a business lady. And
Okay.
so she ended up having more money than my father most of the time because things to hit here to a tungo,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you know.
Uh-huh.
But then he always makes sure she has what she needs. He'll have the
Yes, yes.
firewood there. He built her a little bakery thing that way. Eventually, she
Uh-huh.
didn't have to lift up the thing at the
Uh-huh.
the thing,
Yes, yes, yes.
wherever they're baking.
Yes, the
And I used
cover.
to go sell. I used to go sell bread from
Okay.
my Percy.
Me too.
I was one. As soon as I come from school, I get my pan and
Uh-huh.
I go sell me my bread.
Mm-hmm.
And the bread that I run out of customers, I got sit down by
Uh-huh.
Friday until all and most of the time they will come
Oh,
look for Miss Lambie bread. They come look for Miss Lambie
uh,
bread because my mother
uh,
was one of the best bakers. Okay.
yes, not true, man, not true.
So when I used to go to my customers, if they want, but say, "I do, my things are not an amulelo, I do here, but no credit me." I said, "No, go to my mouth for credit." But I know they
Uh,
walk with my bread for credit. I want it
mhm.
cash. So my
Yes,
mom
yes.
depended earlier out of all my sisters, I think Georgette and Rose, the younger two, eventually were the ones when we left who assisted
Uh-huh.
my mom. with her business. But
Uh-huh.
going back to the childhood days, my
Uh-huh.
father instituted this habit, which I followed when I had my own family. We
Uh-huh.
had monthly family meetings, Percy, for two
Yes.
reasons. My dad wanted to teach us to have a voice. And
Okay.
so in those meetings, his only rules were remember who's the parent,
Uh-huh.
and no matter what you want to say, make sure you say it with respect. And then
Yes.
open forum so that even if
Uh-huh.
we felt that we were wronged by our parents throughout the course of
Uh-huh.
the week, throughout the course of the month, or
Yes.
maybe somebody
Uh-huh.
got punished, but they feel like that was wrongly done. That's our time to
Uh-huh.
let them know.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was man enough to say, Binarata Namulelo, you're right.
Okay.
I should have
Okay.
thought
Okay.
about this differently. Or
Mm-hmm.
he might say, we agree to disagree
Yeah, yeah,
because
okay.
the punishment
Okay.
is the same. Agamba
Yes.
nade, but let me tell you why I took that action. And if you did it
Uh-huh.
again, it would be the same reaction.
Got
Okay.
you. No,
Then we
no,
walk
no. Uh-huh.
away.
Go ahead. Uh-huh.
So we walk away understanding.
Uh-huh. At some point, you started a family of your own, like you said. Tell us
Yes,
about
sir.
the family of your own. Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I'm a mother of four girls.
Uh-huh.
Cheryl, Aretha, Erin, and Aisha.
Mm-hmm.
Two were born here in Belize, and two
Uh-huh.
were born in the States.
Uh-huh.
Um, when I got married to a guy from St. Paul's Bank, so at some
Okay.
point, I started teaching at Holy Ghost at a very young age because you graduate early, right?
Mm-hmm. You speak for yourself. Go ahead.
Graduate early, and
Uh-huh.
then and I went to sixth form, technical
Okay.
sixth form.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Didn't
Mm-hmm.
finish because that's when I had share. Came back
Okay.
home
Uh-huh.
um, to my parents. So share was born into the hands of my mom and dad.
Okay.
But then that's
Okay.
when I started the teaching career at Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I started teaching under Sally Flores. So she's a mentor to me. I love that woman because I
Mm-hmm.
learned so much about I saw her
Mm-hmm.
acting like a true professional. And
All right.
I always question. Can you imagine? At one point, Mr. Nicasio was our principal.
Okay.
Nicasio
Okay.
Nicasio is a
Uh-huh.
moody man. And
I
he
know the
that
man.
Nicasio is friendly, and he that fear what Nicasio they give when he pass the classroom.
You ain't lying.
And
You
so
ain't lying.
I asked my
Mhm.
flow, I said,
Uh-huh.
how do you deal with that kind of a behavior? And she taught me something that I leaned
Uh-huh.
on throughout my career. She said, look,
Uh-huh.
namulelo,
Ah.
Sally Flores carries Sally Flores where Sally Flores goes. So Mama Bata Nick determined na mood na mulelo. I determined
Wow.
that.
That's
Yes, at
powerful.
a
That's
young
powerful.
age, as Sally Flores, and I was like, oh my God. So throughout my career, as I work with some difficult people along the way,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
would find myself going back to my desk saying, as Mrs. Flores would
Yeah.
say, Yvonne
Yeah.
carries where Yvonne goes. So now it's how I respond to that situation that makes the
Uh-huh.
difference, not
No,
not that person's behavior.
no, make we jump off of that punchline right there
Uh-huh.
and talk about at some point there was migration for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Migration. Talk to us about that.
So when I decided to migrate, because my husband decided to go, he went ahead of me and I stayed back. I first of all, I wanted to know after I went to teachers college.
Okay,
And my
okay, okay.
first job was because the Catholic school in Belize City said, I heard you married a guy from St. Paul's Bank and we need a principal out there. I said, oh, Marco,
Ah,
whoa. I never had a plan to go to St. Paul's, native. But my husband was excited. And
uh-huh,
so that was my first job after as a trained teacher was to become a principal in St. Paul's Bank. where my husband and his family is from. By that time, I had my second child already, Ree.
Uh-huh.
And so we all moved to St. Paul's for just 1 year because it was after a year that we decided to migrate. So I
Okay.
left my first two children, Cher and Ree, with my parents as
Uh-huh.
I followed my husband to the States to start our family over. But it wasn't too long after, I think within 3 years, the other two girls joined us. And
Mm-hmm.
and so then I had my nuclear family. I from
Uh-huh.
the time I got to the States, I knew. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so as a little girl, Percy,
Mm-hmm.
I
Uh-huh.
dreamt about going to university. Everything then go, I want to go to university, you know. But as a kid, you don't even know how it happened. You don't know if you could left
Ah.
Belize, how
Mhm.
much they think cost, where you are get
Yes,
money
man.
from.
Yes, 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 yes.
You know, I was telling
Yes.
those kids at Gulisi, continue to dream because again, God has a way to open doors, Percy, even for us in Belize that and the
Mm-hmm.
world is becoming smaller. Here the world is our oyster, us oyster. We could just continue to dream and manifest those things. Tap into your spiritual realm
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
believe that things will fall into place. So
No. Mm-hmm.
I went to school from the
Go
time I
ahead.
got to the States
Okay.
because unlike Belize, now I was a
Uh-huh.
trained teacher. It didn't mean much when I got to the States and sought out a teaching credential. In the States, you need teaching credentials and degrees. You could have all the degrees in the world, but if you don't have a teaching credential, it limits your ability to, they won't even hire you without a teaching credential. They have elementary credentials, they have secondary credential in subject content area. So let me tell you the credentials I hold. I have a multiple subject credential. That means I could teach at any elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
K-12, so I could teach at a high school too. I have a special education credential. I will tell you how I got switched to special education because I retired as a director of special ed and I just happened to have fallen into that route. I did not begin my career thinking I would go the special education route. I have a resource credential and I have an administrative credential because you need that to become an administrator in the public school system in the States. Along with that, I had my bachelor's degree in school psychology. I had my master's degree, and my area of study was reading language arts. And then of course, my administrative credential and my PhD now.
What?
So
The
it's
PhD. No, 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 no. No, you don't get to it. The PhD thesis and so on is about
yes.
what?
So I did my research on inclusive practices in the country of Belize. So I came back home because I told my dissertation chair
Mm-hmm.
I could do the study somewhere in the States and get done, but I wanted to impact my people. So
Mm-hmm.
I came back home to Dangriga. I had 30 participants in my research. And
Okay.
most of the educators that I interviewed, because I did what they call a qualitative research. You could do a research qualitative or quantitative. That's the
Yes,
number
yes,
thing. With
yes.
qualitative, you're gathering more story and you're telling a story. So I came home to spend a month and I
Uh-huh.
interviewed most of my participants came from Dangriga. I had one participant from Punta
Uh-huh.
Gorda, but I always say that my study was centered in the southern districts of Belize.
Uh-huh.
One of my dissertation chair reminded me, she said, Yvonne, you're overlooking a major piece of what you're contributing to your research. She said, it's hearing the voice of indigenous people in scholarship. And I was, oh
Uh,
wow. She said, yeah. She said, how many of your participants are Garifuna people? You need to take a look at that.
uh,
Because you
uh,
seldom would have that voice in a piece of scholarship
mhm.
that would impact your own country and then your own people. So I
Uh-huh.
was definitely proud of that, and I made sure that I highlighted that because you could read a lot of research that has nothing to do with us, or our
Yes.
voice is not part of the findings.
Yes, yes. No, you
Yes.
see now out of that, well, doctorly, dressing, the handle you now have. But your niche is on the ground is playing out with that same skill set, right? What is this niche working and what are you doing on the ground? Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Percy,
Uh-huh. Tell us
you
about that. Uh-huh.
Percy, you act as if you know a lot of things, Percy. Um, you know what? I come back home to help with the training because a lot of our people have
Mhm.
limited understanding of the whole world of special education. Very
Okay.
limited. As a matter of
Mhm.
fact, even my research, as I read research, it took me a long time for this because initially there were hardly any research paper that spoke about special education in Belize and the impact and where the
Okay.
country is going. You
Mhm.
rely a lot on UNICEF and UNESCO and foreign people to come in, and
Mhm.
it was their story that that you have to follow, But in terms, that's like I said, you hearing from your own people who are in the trenches, these teachers who are now mandated. As a matter of fact, it's a mandate because Belize signed a lot of documents about special
Yes,
education,
yes.
and where we're gonna go and
Yes.
this inclusive practice that we're gonna go. So
And
the
treat it.
first
Yes.
the first training I did a training
Mhm.
at TCC in Punta
Mhm.
Gorda.
Mhm.
I've done 3 or 4 trainings with Ecumenical Junior College. And I
Mhm.
think it was important. Dr. Zab was the one who asked me to get in touch with Dr. Martinez to
Okay.
schedule some trainings there.
Uh-huh.
What I like is you catch the teachers in internship because that should be part of their
Ah.
training before they get into the classroom. That there's a thing called special education, and there are
Mhm.
some students in their classes that might fit one of these criteria. What our people did not even understand, Percy,
Uh-huh.
is
Uh-huh.
that there are 13 eligibility criteria for special ed. So not everybody have autism.
Okay.
Not everybody is an autistic child. Not everybody
Yes.
is deaf and hard of hearing. There are about 13 of those things. And the biggest sector that is difficult for even teachers to understand is what you call specific learning disability. These are students who have the cognitive ability to learn, but
Uh-huh.
there's a gap in their learning. Okay, so
Mhm.
they can learn because, and then, oh my God, the other thing is there's a
Mhm.
lot we don't have. So this is what I tell my teachers. We're
Mhm.
far away from industrial countries with servicing students with special needs.
All right.
But we're moving in the right direction. Let's just put it that way. But we're far from there. There are things called IEPs, individual education plan, that should be developed. You need to sit with a team to develop that. We don't have some of the team members yet in Belize to assess a child, to truly assess a child to see if they qualify for special education. You need cognitive assessment done by a trained school psychologist.
Okay, one moment.
Yes, sir.
I you are steering me in a certain direction. It used to be, to my recollection, that we put our worst teachers down there at the lower level. When well, obviously, there's where we need the best ones. Not only at the lower level, but special ed. Like you distinguish between credential and degree. But anyhow, that's a comment.
Can I respond?
All right, please,
I
please.
just want you to know I agree with you. As an administrator, because we
Mm-hmm.
also hire teachers to fill those positions in the states,
Mm-hmm.
I always want my best teachers, my most compassionate teachers, because you have to have compassion. You have to
Mm-hmm.
you have to teach with heart. Let's put it that way. Teach with
Mm-hmm.
heart. Children don't care what you know unless they know that you care. Okay?
Okay.
So and so teachers have the obligation to at least like their job if they don't love it. And some people are there for a paycheck. And I would say
Yes, 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 yes,
if
yes.
you're here for a paycheck, get off the bus. We don't have
Yes.
time for that. These kids need people who will love them, care for them, try to understand them. And then whatever, to whatever degree you could bring that child up, you work hard. You work hard every day to get that child up to that level, to at least give that child a quality of life. So I
Mm-hmm.
already said some of these kids are already starting at third base. We don't have time for people who to play around with these kids. So
Mm-hmm.
those are things that as a administrator, when I put on my administrative hat,
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
that I know it's non-negotiable for me. I don't play around with just putting a body in front of those kids.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
Hmm. So yes, Percy, we need our best there.
Yes,
But even more than that, though, we need people who are willing to learn. Yeah, you know, might know this today
fine.
walking in, but
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
information is at our fingertips,
fine,
Percy.
fine. Well,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
because
Well, you
Google
see,
today now with AI and that kind of stuff, there's nothing. Let me tell you
uh-huh.
what
Make
encouraged
a here.
me. Let me tell you what encouraged me when I was doing my dissertation. I walk away saying, and I must be lucky for find 30 awesome teachers. But these are people who love
Uh,
their job, who love their
mhm.
children, who's trying to do everything they can. And some of them were already doing some of the things that I trained them on. They just didn't know
Okay,
a name
okay.
for it.
I got
No?
you. I got you.
They don't know one name for it. So I walked away at the end of my research saying we can do this. We're in good hands.
Okay,
But remember, a principal is a leader of a school, so it depends on the leadership of that school
okay.
and what they expect and the standards that they expect, because that has to be a part of the equation.
But government want to retire then at 55, man. So then just when
Yeah,
them full fledged. But
and that's the
well,
thing. That's the
go ahead.
thing.
Well, go
That
ahead. Well, yeah,
that's the thing, Percy, because you just to get ripe in your field, you just to get, to say, okay, I got this. Because I always said, I wonder what my first 3 years was as a teacher. I must have messed up some kids. Because number one, we think we know and we don't know. We
yes.
think we know, but we don't know. And there's so much about human behavior, that, and especially the teachers have gotten guided by it, because I grew up now hearing about teachers who like insult kids,
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh,
you know,
uh-huh.
and yeah, by the time you reach your ripe age, you don't know. There's no need for a power struggle, you
Uh-huh.
know. I
We're
understand
coming.
you. We go work this out. We're gonna get there together,
Well, we're
and I
coming.
yeah.
Uh-huh. We're coming
So
to that point.
55 might be too young, but I don't want to get in
It
a
is.
how Belize. I don't want to get into how Belize run a country per
You
se.
know what? Talk about the policy. Okay, fine. We have people who will come and take that one. But
Yes.
okay. But structure, still, we wanted to
Okay.
talk about your vision going forward with this niche that you have found. Is the structure adequate? And when I say structure, I mean that the powers that be have provided, and that include not only government but NGO. If not, if it's not adequate, what else is needed? Then then yes, you are working with the human resources on the ground. That is true. Um, you know, my philosophy is you can't get to a gallon out of a quart. But anyhow, tell us about this vision. How you see it. Becoming more realized as you go along.
Well, okay. So there's a part of your research, Percy, that
Mm.
talks about findings and implications, right? Like, what are your major findings from your research?
Uh-huh.
And some of my findings has to do with at the university level, making sure that certain courses become part of the teacher training program, which some universities do and some don't. So that's an area that still need improvement.
Okay.
Some finding has to do with the Ministry of Education. And I don't know presently what the ministry is doing in terms of, let's say, is there a 5 year or a 10 year plan to meet the needs of all students and not just on
Mhm.
paper? Because we
Mhm.
were very good at putting policies and stuff on paper. But what are the practical implications? Are teachers being
Yes.
trained? Is it,
Okay.
who's monitoring that these things are happening in schools? What do you
Okay.
do when you have teachers who resist the direction that we're going? There's a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to human resource, that was
Uh-huh.
an area of need, even in the special
Mm-hmm.
education, because every
Mm-hmm.
district per se only
Mm-hmm.
had two special education officer. Okay,
Okay.
here in
Okay.
Nangriga, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Westby is
Mm-hmm.
an education officer, and last
Mm-hmm.
year I think then Nancy Cruz came along. Nancy Cruz
Mm-hmm.
was a principal at Anglican school, and
Okay.
just from interact because she just from interacting with her when I
Mm-hmm.
did my research, I said to myself, I hope one
Mm-hmm.
day she going to special ed because she
Ah,
understood it, the way she ran her school and how she addressed the needs of those kids. She
yes.
got it right. And so I was happy when a vacancy came up and then I heard she got it. And
Okay.
these girls are always looking for ways to so okay, let me go back to the number. There's two of them, and you see how
Uh-huh.
many schools they're in Nangriga, right? So they're there for the entire Stan Creek district. So
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, their
Mm-hmm.
services were focused on elementary schools only. And so
Okay.
when I interviewed high school teachers, they
Mm-hmm.
never know. Some of them knew, some of them didn't know um, who these people were because our system did not even have a way of tracking these kids as they move from grade to grade or transition from elementary to high school. A lot of the teachers would say, we did not even know that this child has special needs. The parents
Uh-huh.
won't tell you because that's another topic talking about parents. And there's not a paper trail that
Uh-huh.
followed these kids. So sometimes the
Uh-huh.
teachers are 2 months into their teaching that
So,
their instinct would tell them something wrong, yeah,
uh-huh.
but not that the paper trail identified it and stay ahead of the game. So that
So you
still is
would
an area that needs to be fixed.
so you would recommend with respect to staffing more?
Yes, you have to look at your staffing ratio for the amount of work that needs to get done. But I also
Uh-huh.
know special
Uh-huh.
education
Uh-huh.
come with funding is a thing, but so Minister of Education will have to look at their whole funding structure to say out of all this pie, we will give
Uh-huh.
special ed this amount
Uh-huh.
every year until we move closer to what the goal should really be. And
So
Belize knows well, they have a lot of foreign educators who have interest in that field who come and give of their time, give of their
uh-huh.
resources. A lot of university professors who've come. But again, usually per se, they go to Belize City, Belmopan, Cayo.
Okay.
They hardly come to Southern District with some of these resources. When I did
Okay.
my research, I walked away saying, if I could get a nonprofit just to come and do some speech therapy during the summer,
Uh-huh.
it would have been worth it. No,
Okay.
worth all the hard
Okay.
work because a lot of our kids need speech therapy, but they have to travel to Belize City, $200 a session. How many
Ah,
sessions you think the kids will get?
no,
And if you're
well.
in therapy and if it's
Mm,
haphazard and inconsistent,
mm,
will it have the impact that that therapy is supposed to have? So
Gotcha.
give it cat a Percy. But you know,
Yes,
they
yes.
always say you when you climb a mountain, it's one step at a time. When you so chew a cow that one bite at a time. So part of our job, even as
Mm.
outsiders, I'm not an outsider. I'm an outsider insider,
Uh-huh.
is know what's feasible so that you don't frustrate the masses, right? As
Uh-huh.
the journey
Uh-huh.
towards where we want to go, you take
Uh-huh.
one baby step at a time, person. And I tell you, we Belizean laid back, and I tell you, in as more ways than one, we too laid back with some of the things that needs to change.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's all we have time for that. At this
Okay,
time now, we go to my co-host, Attorney Ivan Williams. He has a short segment, The Law
Mr.
and the Legal.
Williams.
Hi, good morning, Miss Dr. Yvonne.
Good
Lambem,
morning, Mr.
Lambem
Williams.
McFadzean.
Yes.
Good morning. Yeah, I came in a bit late, but I was listening to you, and it's very, very interesting and informative. I
Thank
can tell
you.
you. I had one question that I wanted to ask you in relation to. There's a school in Belize called Stella Maris School.
Yes.
Is there a connection in all of this in terms of, because I think there's a special ed school, right?
Right. Okay.
And
So
what role do they play? Yeah.
when I did my research, Stella Maris was one of the first special education school. But do you know that they were addressing only the physical? So it was kids with physical disability
Okay.
that went to Stella Maris. But it's evolving now. And I know that there was a crisis that happened in that school with a student with autism. Um, yeah, so yes, Stella Maris. And I think the special education department is looking at ways to continue to use Stella Maris in different ways than it used to be, to become a part of this whole special education service that is provided. I also heard that there's a center that they're going to open in Orange Walk. On one of my many trips to Belize, I came here with I was an adjunct professor with Cal Baptist University in California, and we had a session with the prime minister, and he told us then, because his wife was doing a project for special education, and she and I had a conversation a year or so later. But they from there they open a center in Orange Walk that would have a lot of those resources that I'm talking about, having a school psychologist, having a speech therapist. If you look at all the other therapists that needs to go in special education, Belize is definitely far from that. I will, while I'm there, find out more about what's happening at that center and if it's open and who they're servicing and how people from the Southern District can have access to that. Or at some point, where can we have something like that in the Southern area? Because if you're from PG, getting to Orange Walk for some services is not that easy.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think you touched on a number of important areas that needs certain development. And I
Yeah,
think
so
this.
I always say the work continues, and I let everybody know my work will be Southern Districts until we're saturated. I want not only the teachers to understand, I want our families to understand, because a lot of our family members are still some of them, there's a stigma with special education, so they want to hide. They don't want it known. That no, there's nothing. You know what? Research says that 8 to 10% of every population have a special has some kind of special needs. I say I have a special need because I can't draw. If you put me to draw something that was stick man, you will get. But that doesn't mean I'm stupid. And that's the same thing with these kids. They're not stupid. They just learn differently. And our job is to find out how differently do they learn, and then how differently can I deliver this content so that kids get it. And also, We like pencil and paper. Nancy Cruz said chalk and talk. You get front of your board and you talk all day to kids.
Yes,
They're
yes,
tired of
yes,
hearing
yes,
your
yes,
voice.
yes.
Kids
Yes,
don't
yes.
learn like that. So,
Okay.
and also in terms of finding out, have this kid mastered this concept? Maybe the kid can't give that to in our paragraph, because maybe the
Uh-huh.
writing is weird, but they could draw it out, and so
Very good. Very good.
take that
Yes, yes,
final
yes.
product to say, oh yeah,
Mhm.
just from this piece of
Mhm.
art, I know he got it. So we have to measure what we teach differently.
All
I
right.
really,
So
I really,
there,
On,
one
there's
la-
a
last one last
on that
question.
note, no,
One
it
la-
can't be a question because there have to be an answer. On
all right,
that note,
good,
that's all the
uh-huh.
time that we have.
good.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Oh
Papa.
my.
Thank you,
Okay.
my co-host. We will
Yeah, thank
continue
you.
off air.
No
And
problem. No
obviously,
problem.
we have to have a round two. We have to
I,
have
oh,
a.
I may
Yeah.
figure that you are doing, Percy. And he hate a cat, boomer Percy, mafia, bugele.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
Are
you know
you?
what? If
Uh-huh.
I
yeah,
would
Uh-huh.
definitely, I don't mind Percy because there's so much to say.
yeah,
That's all
Um,
yeah.
right.
at some point, what I can do is, maybe when I get back to the States, would be to pull out my findings and my implications. Implications
Yes,
are,
yes.
how does this affect the people?
Very good.
Yeah.
How
Very
does
good.
that affect the people? So
Yes.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Give me a little like go Percy, but my thing
Yes,
is,
yes.
number one, as a Garifuna woman, I want to make
Uh-huh.
sure that our Garifuna people are not left out from this understanding. And then the Southern District. So I'll stay here as
Yes.
often. I came earlier than my family this year because I was part of the training for the junior college
Okay.
conference. Dr. Martinez always they call me, and she knows I'll respond. And she and I will be talking before I leave to see
Yes.
what else she wants me to do. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you once again from the
Yeah.
deepest part of my heart. Are
Thank you
you?
too. Thank you too.
Ayo, it's a pleasure. Sarah got a bad na he got Percy early in the morning. Love you guys. Sarah May. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Itara.